Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. To join the meeting, if you cannot come in person, you can use the Zoom app, meeting ID number 864-1463-5536, passcode 758059. And if you wish to call in, you need to call 1-301-715-8592, and the meeting code is the same, 864-1463-5536. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is the chair's report. I want to thank the families, the administration, the nurses, and all the school staff for their flexibility dealing with the opening of school this week. Once again, the school community has had to pivot quickly in response to COVID and to the commissioner, and we do appreciate all the efforts made by everyone to make it work. I think the plan drawn up by Dr. Burnham and her team worked very well, and we thank them very much. We have no presentation this evening, so next on the agenda is public comment. I want to remind the public that the first public comment section is for agenda items only. The second public comment section is open to any topic within the scope of authority of the school committee. Public comments about individual students are prohibited to protect the privacy of the student per state and federal law. I'm not seeing any public comments, so I would think we could continue. Next, review and approve minutes. We do have minutes from the joint meeting on December 14th, 2021. Did people have a chance to review those?
Yes.
And is there any question or any need to amend anything?
No.
No. So can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 14th minutes.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. Line item transfers, we do not have any.
There was
this
a late
evening.
addition.
Oh, there
Mr.
was
Cassidy
one I
will-
didn't catch. Mr. Cassidy?
Good evening, Mike Cassidy, Business Manager, in front of the school committee tonight. There is a transfer of funds of $6,396.69 from the primary school. They have account balances in their workbook, band and music supplies, and repair of music equipment, and they're shifting some of the resulting balances to general funds and physical education supplies. They're anticipating stocking up on some of the classroom supplies for the general supply account, and a line item, physical ed supplies, which has been moderately funded over the past few years. They're going in to increase some supplies for this year, which may result in a reduction of any purchases for next year, which will help out next year's budget. So that's in front of the committee tonight for your consideration.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cassidy?
No.
No, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the line item transfer?
I'll make a motion to approve the line item transfer presented by Mr. Cassidy.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I'll first provide you a COVID update. The town positivity rate as of December 31st was 7.39%, and the state 21.62%. Known cases over the break, running dates of December 23rd through January 5th today, a total of 15 staff and 79 students. Test and stay. To date, 283 tests have been administered to 112 students and staff. Vaccination rate at LHS is at 70%, middle school 57%, elementary school 42%, and the primary school 30%. Distribution of masks and COVID tests earlier this week on Monday. 324 rapid antigen tests were provided to staff. 1,505 KN95 masks were also provided to staff. Masks and kits were provided to full-time and part-time school staff, central office staff, custodians, food service, non-public school employees, including our winter coaches, who may not also be employees during our day, the day-to-day substitutes, interns, and the adult extended day staff. Additional KN95 masks in a 4-week supply to follow this week were sent to Lunenburg Primary School, a total of 1,300 masks, Turkey Hill, 1,100, the middle high school, 2,600, central office staff, 560, and the winter athletic coaches, a total of 310. If staff have an issue with the Department of Ed issued masks, they can take their mask to our health office for a different one. Approximately 15 staff in each building requested and were provided a different mask based on fit. They were all given the 5 masks for this week. And we should have enough of those to at least get us through another 2 to 3 weeks, which allows us to put in an order for additional in the meantime. Staffing shortages, which I referenced in a letter out to families. There was a conference call with the commissioner late this afternoon. He is aware that staffing shortages in schools over the next few weeks is likely. Having remote learning is not an option. We were advised that we would have to, if we had too short staff to open and run the building safely, we were advised that we would have to cancel the day and make it up in June. I did indicate to parents in my communication that closure due to staffing shortages is a possibility, and there may be a last-minute notice of cancellation. But I think it's important for everyone to know that we have always done and will continue to do everything we can to cover classes and keep schools open, including having administrators covering classrooms, which has been done. But still, closure is a real possibility that families need to be prepared for. And a few reminders, Friday, January 14th is an early release day for staff professional development. Monday, January 17th, schools are closed in observance of the MLK Junior holiday. Monday, January 24th marks the end of quarter 2. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the work you've done to coordinate all those masks, and Mr. Cassidy as well, all those masks and all the details.
Yeah,
As we move
We have a
forward.
good team.
Any questions for Dr. Burnham? No. So next would be our student representative, Sean.
Thank you. I'm going to start with the high school report. The annual tree lighting was held on Thursday, December 2nd, where Student Council held a bake sale to raise money for the Lions Club. The winter instrumental and vocal concerts were held on both the 14th and 16th. Our club started up again this year and meets every Monday after school. Before break began, students participated in a holiday spirit week with pajama, whiteout, flannel, and festivity days. Middle school students who are in band or chorus performed in the winter concerts on the 14th and 16th. Students participated in high school spirit week before break began. The high school's National Honor Society is holding tutoring after school for any middle school students that need help. Elementary school students participated in Spirit Fridays throughout the month of December. Themes included holiday headwear, holiday sweaters, and holiday pajamas. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Sounds like fun. Next, under new business, we have permission to post. Mr. Cassidy?
Good evening, Mike Cassidy, Business Manager. This evening, we have two positions that we'd like to post as soon as possible, and both are somewhat connected to the budget. And so I'd like to go out of order on the memorandum. There is an attendance clerk that we're proposing, a part-time attendance clerk, and the primary school guidance counselor, reinstating that position. I'd like to take the office clerk first. And I believe at the last school committee meeting, we made a reference to the Department of Health grant that we received, which is $100,000 for this year and next school year. That is to fund the substitute nurse down at the middle school. Also in that grant was an attendance clerk, and this position will support administration, reviewing and monitoring student attendance, identify at-risk students. As I was reminded by someone, is that if a student has attendance issues in the first grade, they'll have them in the third grade, the fifth grade, eighth grade. It's just really identify the early at-risk students and really, as well as some of the older ones as well, but it's really just to kind of correct some of those behaviors in getting that data. So that position was never posted. It is grant funded. It'll be, the person that we hire will continue employment into next year. So that is the position. Once again, it's part-time, no benefits. The second position is in my opinion, is aligned with that grant, because the grant is paying for the nurse substitute. That frees up some money to spend in other areas. And we want to look back at some of the positions that we had talked about at the beginning of, God bless you.
Thank you.
At the beginning of the year. And one of the positions that was kind of left off the table was that guidance counselor position. And that's, it'll be a mid-year position. So it's only half the salary, half the insurance, if that person chooses that. I want to be transparent to the school committee this evening. It says in my memorandum, at this time, this is a temporary position that will end at the end of the school year. We did have a FY23 budget meeting today with the administration. This position is still on the table for consideration. It was part of the capital staffing plan in the year one. So I don't want to mislead you. At the time that I wrote this memorandum, it would look like a temporary position, but we're still evaluating that. So just so you know that. This position is going to help just day-to-day administration and also do the SEL instruction at the primary. So that is what we're looking for this evening. So that's for your consideration if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cassidy? Mr. Leighton?
Yes, so in regards to the guidance counselor, so it is a temporary position. So just to clarify, but there's potential that it could be available in the following year? Okay, that makes sense then. And then in regards to the office clerk, I didn't know if it made sense for any of the job description to help with data collection of how we have a lot of cases right now going on where, I don't know if the nurses or that area would need more help in assisting with the data collection of all these cases that are going on right now.
What the committee is kind of managing, is this the Behavioral Health Committee that's managing? I know Katie McGuire submitted the grant, so I know she's working with
Right.
Jamie Millette as part of this grant.
But we had asked permission to post a clerical position to support the nurses with all of the COVID-related
Yes.
reporting.
Yes.
We had asked for that previously, and finally, we have found a candidate, correct?
Yeah, she started on Monday
Oh, great.
Oh, good.
in the midst of handing out the antigen tests, and so far, so good. So so there is
So they are
that
getting the
person
help, yeah.
to assist Katie with the test and stay and some of the numbers in regards to that. This is, there may be some cross-training between this part-time office clerk position and the test and stay office clerk position. So that's the way we're kind of looking at it.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, can I have a motion to approve the permission to post?
I'll make a motion to approve the permission to post.
I'll second.
Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thanks
Thank you,
again.
Mr. Cassidy. Now we have the school committee goal article for the Lunenburg Ledger. So I had said at our last meeting that I would attempt to write something that would, could go into the paper or could go on Facebook or however we wished, outlining general responsibilities. So I looked on the MASC website, which would be where to get that information, and found the way they have it figured out, they have this broken down, but they also have it in 9 different areas. So I thought if I took the first 3 areas, which are the ones, if somebody says to me, what does the school committee do? I always say policy, budget, and the superintendent. So I took those 3 and went through it, and then I thought maybe on a second article, we would add the other things. They were things like collective bargaining, which doesn't fall under any of those 3, just to use one example. So I am not at all upset if anybody doesn't like any of my words or anything that I put in there. I am expecting to revise. So, suggestions?
So in general, you just mentioned like extra stuff too. I just took a quick note of meeting dates, like when we actually meet. I think that would be important to
To put in here,
put in. It
yes?
doesn't have to be in this
Yep.
one, but in a future one potentially. And then subcommittees, that we are involved in subcommittees and mentioning those different subcommittees that we fall on. In regards to specifically what you wrote, I thought that was great. My only recommendation was at the beginning, it said the Lunenburg School Committee will have 3 open seats at this May's town election.
I didn't know how to say that.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like, school committee will have 3 seats on the ballot or 3 seats that will be.
Contested, or?
I don't know if it would be
You don't
contested,
even
but I
know
guess
that.
seats I guess it would be 3. I guess seats is probably the best word, but it could be a better word than that. But I was thinking more of on the ballot in the May town election or on.
Right, as I wrote that a couple of times, and I said, well, that sounds like
That they're
the
open.
3 of us that are up are
Might
not
run again.
run
yeah.
again. And we haven't had that
That's the
discussion,
best word.
but that wasn't my intent. So, so if I put, we'll have 3 seats on the ballot?
I think on the ballot is probably,
And then I don't know, also if you'd say 3 out of the 5 seats too, the way you're telling people that there's also 5 members on the committee, or is that saved for another day?
No, we can put that in. We can put that in. We will have 3 of the 5 seats.
And do we mention the specifics, that there is 2 years left on one of them and 3 years left on the?
Yeah, I think that would make
That might be
sense to
good
do
too, to
that.
Is
clarify.
that good for this article or for the next one?
I know,
I feel like
that's
we're
the
putting
tough part.
so much in, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, I
Want to
wanna
clarify in
be-
another
But we
future
could
article.
clarify that. I would rather have that clear in the first paragraph.
People are gonna assume that
because-
it's always just 2 and then 1 year it's 1.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, mention the,
She,
2,
Kate's filling it in
3 year.
right now on the
oh, yeah,
live.
better man
on
than
the-
I
on the
am here.
forum.
Yes. That would be good. As far as when we meet, I think that should go in that top paragraph as well. Because if people are thinking about running, they would want to know when we meet. The subcommittee thing, I think I can go in the next
Yeah.
article.
Yeah.
But,
Would we not want to add in, though, if they know the responsibility to decide if they want to run, that they should really be aware that there's subcommittees? Because you don't want someone to come on and go, oh, sure, it's only 2 meetings a month, and then we hit them with, well, not really.
we could add it to that second paragraph. After talking about that, we could say, what I have there, we can also say, school committee members are expected to serve on subcommittees.
Yes, perfect.
Something like that there, so that people know.
One thing that I found helpful that I really was like, oh, is to have, like the 3 things you talked about were like the headline items, but maybe just a real brief description. Because like if you're new to the town, or for example, if you're new to Massachusetts, we're an elected body. There are 5 members who each serve 2-year terms. Of those 5, 3 are running for election, or there are 3 spots open this year. We're part of the town government for the municipality of Lunenburg.
Yep, we can do that.
It sounds strange, but I'm from Ohio, and in Ohio, everything's done by county, so it's different.
It's different, yeah.
I mean, there is a school board for each town, or each school district, but most school districts are countywide, so it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, so reading the first sentence again with the corrections, the Lunenburg School Committee will have 3 of 5 seats on the ballot at this May's town election. 1 seat is to fill 2 years of the 3-year term. 2 seats will be a 3-year term. So I feel like that's clear.
Yeah, that should be clear. So we need to put somewhere that it is, how did you put it, Tony? An elected body with ties to the municipality, I know was your intent. How did you say that?
It's an elected body that's part of the government of the municipality of Lunenburg.
So I think we could add that to the beginning of the second paragraph where it says school committees have a very specific specific responsibilities, and then continuing what you said if you want to.
And then say it again?
Or an elected body that's part of the government of the municipality of Lunenburg.
So then it goes on after that, the 3 responsibilities. There are many parts to each of these areas, and then we added school committee members are expected to serve on subcommittees. Meetings of the school committee are held on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of each month.
Carol, can I ask a separate question? Did you consider specifying that we do not do curriculum stuff?
That goes in the next one.
Okay, good, okay.
That's, the cans and at the end of it, I think I put something like, In our next article, we'll go into detail on some of these areas to help the public understand exactly what the school committee can and cannot do.
Got it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to make it too long, because I figured people won't read it, and it was getting long. And so,
I have a question just at the very end. Are
Sure.
we, where it says, or, to feel free to contact you or any member of the school committee, but we have agreed that you are.
I'm the
And
spokesperson.
so is it really worth to put in there? Because I feel like in the past, we have been very clear that we have not answered
Right.
specific outreaches.
I guess, can I throw out my 2 cents on this one? So,
Yes,
in my opinion, I think citizens can come see us individually and ask us about our role on the committee. Like, how is it serving on the subcommittees? How much time do you feel like you put into the job? So I feel like that's okay, but I feel like
but,
speaking on behalf of the school committee, we don't want to do that.
right, right. And the other thing is, if somebody asked a question that you were not comfortable fielding, you would say, I'll forward it to the chair. Because it may be that somebody may feel comfortable asking Tony a question because they know him, but they don't know me, and they'd rather,
Yeah.
so.
I was just considering where we were sending this and who we have, I'm not going to get into past things, but we have told specific people.
Oh, definitely.
Associated with the paper that we cannot speak with them.
No,
But
no.
That makes sense, and it does say specifically if it's about the role, so.
But if somebody were to ask you about how much time a week do you spend, you certainly could answer that.
That's true.
That's not speaking for the committee.
That is true.
And I like the idea that it's just your email and not everybody else's email.
Yes, I thought you might like
That
that.
makes it
Yes,
easier.
yes. So, okay, so are we okay with this then? Now, the ledger is looking at articles a little differently, Dr. Burnham? Did I hear that? So like, usually I would just send something, like when my husband conducts the town band, and when it's time for the town band to start, he writes the article and just sends it in, and they run it.
Right.
Will they just run that?
I think in this case, they will.
Okay.
Because what I understand is Pam Porter, who owns and runs the Ledger, was interested in doing series of articles to help the community better come to understand the different boards, commissions, committees, et cetera, in town, what their role is, trying to make things a little bit more clear and maybe, garner some more interest amongst the members of the community in participating. So I think in this case, there won't
They
be a
won't run
fee to
Okay.
include it in. We were told that it would be helpful to keep the paper going if we paid for the space in the paper. So we will be much more judicious about our things that we submit. But this, I think, is something that falls in line with something that the paper wanted to do.
Okay.
So I think, we can certainly pursue it, and honestly, if they charge us a fee for including it, I think
Then we-
it's a priority, really, to make sure that the community understands, so we'll look
Well,
to
then we
fund
know.
it.
Yeah. Okay. So, would this be something that your office would send?
Yep, sure.
Okay, all right. And, Laura, what do you think about running that article on Facebook? Is that
Absolutely.
On the-
I'll put that on our page.
on our
Mhm.
page?
Yep.
And then Sophie, who isn't here tonight, but Sophie had, offered to deal with the Twitter, so I can let her know that we would like to set up a Twitter and see if she will do that for us, and then we can post that as well. And anything else that we have going at the moment that we can throw that at?
I think we could share it to the Lunenburg Schools and Community page as well, but I think it might be good to time it so that it goes to the school committee one first?
Yes.
So
Yeah, I
people see
can
it
do
first,
that.
and
I
then
can put
maybe
on
a
this-
day or two
yeah,
later, we
that's
see it
fine.
later on the community
Sure.
page.
Okay.
It's, if you're interested, it's something that the principals can point to in their weekly emails.
Yep.
We can certainly post it on the main page of the district website, and principals can direct people to see it posted there, if
Yeah.
that's something that you're interested in.
No, I think the more places, if we want to get people to understand what it is that we do, the more places we put it, the better off we are.
I agree.
Shall we wait until next Friday's
Okay.
principal's email to allow everybody here to post things on Facebook and Twitter, et cetera, and then the principals can sort of follow that up
Yeah,
a
and
week
give the
out?
principal some time too, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope, that'll be fine. Because it wouldn't go into the paper until a week from Friday.
Right.
Yeah, and I love spreading it out. They see it here, 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 it starts clicking, and
And then timing
Nice.
on the follow-up article, maybe a month,
Sounds good.
yeah, I think it's just keep giving them
and
information.
just a little bit at a
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
And then, just so people know what they're walking into, and people know what to expect,
Yes.
you know, to ask us to do something that we can't do, you know. Or to know that we have the people that need to be doing something, you know, either way. Okay, so are we set on that one?
Think so?
All right, that's what we'll do then. Now we have the first reading of Student Activity Policy 3201.
What are we using? I'll make a motion to waive the first reading of policy 3201, student activities.
I'll second that motion.
I had a question.
Yes.
So, on the policy, let me see if I can find it now. I hit too many times. Let me find it. Okay, oh, thank you. See, she's so efficient.
Nice.
On the policy, it was the paragraph 2 under authorization. The superintendent must approve all student activity accounts. Student activity accounts will be established upon the recommendation of students to the building principal. I'm looking at the primary account. I'm not thinking the students suggested that account. So I didn't understand. I thought maybe I was misunderstanding it. At the high school, I can see the kids would say, you know, we're doing a drama club or something, we need some, but it didn't, that particular line didn't make sense to me. So I'm just asking.
Mr. Cassidy? I'm assuming that this is in reference to different types of student activities accounts, not a main student activities account. So, as an example, there are sub-accounts at the high school
Yes.
for specific classes, for student government,
Yep.
Yeah.
et cetera.
You know, I think that's language, it's model language that we got from MASC.
Probably.
And I read that, I read it a different way than you did.
Well,
which
that's
is-
why I brought
okay,
it up, because I figured
So-
there was another way to read that.
The idea of the student activity account is for student. It's not to be, it can't be generated by a principal or a group of teachers. It's really student-driven. That's the way I read that, and it kind of comes from the bottom up, so to speak. It's probably not the best, that's the way I interpret it. It's probably not best said this way. Because you're right, if the kindergarten, you know, wants to do I don't
know
what
how-
they're into these days, but if they were doing a fundraiser for a field trip down to the aquarium or something like that, you know, they would probably do a collection in the general activity account. There may be, as Dr. Burnham said, there may be a sub-account within the student activity to pay for the busing, admission fees,
Oh, sure.
lunches, things like that. So So it could be project-based with sub-ledger accounts, but my feeling is it's driven by student and student activities that are taking place in that building, not administrative-led
Or
activities.
suggested by the kids, because it seemed that means that the kids suggested
Yes,
this account, and,
and activity and use of funds.
right,
Yeah, so that's this businessman's opinion.
okay, well, well, that's fine if that's what, if in reading it a
You
different
can certainly
way.
rewrite, take a crack at rewriting that. Does that go back to committee then, or would it?
Well, if we could come up
It
with
would-
a quick,
Yeah.
with
We
a
could
quick.
definitely do a quick fix today too, but I'm just wondering too, I'm a high school teacher, so I don't know as much about the middle school and elementary schools, but for student activities, this makes sense for me. They're student activity accounts that the students are doing some sort of club group that they would put forward
Right.
towards the principal. Are there student activity accounts at the primary, at the elementary school?
Yes,
Yes,
And also at the first paragraph, it does say an internal control of extra classroom activity funds. I didn't know if these are separate than, say, classroom activity funds, where these are student-centered activity accounts, not specifically a classroom teacher setting up field trip accounts, say.
can you reference that paragraph?
The very first
The
one.
very
Very
first
first
paragraph, at the
one.
last sentence of the first paragraph says, and internal control of extra classroom activity funds. So I didn't know if it separates the idea that maybe the primary school and elementary school aren't really student activity accounts, but they're classroom activity accounts, not these extra classroom activity accounts that are more student activities.
I think.
Does that make sense?
You're right. It's basically, it's a revolving account that takes care of student events, specific student events, and fundraising opportunities. So.
For student groups,
for-
not so much classroom groups, is I guess my thought.
So it could be, not at the primary school, there's no really student groups.
right.
It's classroom activities.
That's why I
Yeah,
wondered if it's
exactly.
not this category. This policy is more fitting student activity accounts, which might be more of the high school, maybe even middle school, where I'm trying to think of a good club, but like, any club that they're doing with the kids are involved, this would make sense, where if it's a classroom activity, I don't know if that connects back to this policy.
I don't know, I just know that when we approved it, it was called Student Activity Funds, and there was $2,000 for the primary school and $2,000 for Turkey Hill. And so that's why this confused me.
Yeah,
But
that's, so
I
where is
see
the
it-
2004 at the primary or Turkey Hill?
And does that serve as like, the $2,000 at the primary school, could that be like monies for some special event at the end of the school year or something? Something like that.
Field
Some-
trips.
Some field day kind of thing, or something like that. Not familiar, not having had a child in the primary school for 30 years.
Sure.
I'm not really sure what it is specifically they do, but some activity that calls on,
So as an example,
Everybody.
prior to COVID, the kindergarten used to have a kindergarten Olympics day.
right, something
And they
like
would
that.
rent, weather dependent, they would rent a big tent for shade,
Yes,
and they might purchase some other things for the event. Again, that's a student activities.
that would be a student activity that isn't classroom-based, that falls under this general category, or the turkey trot stuff at Turkey Hill, that kind of thing.
And they do have after-school activities at Turkey Hill.
Yeah, at
They've had, like a chess club and,
running stuff and,
yeah, they've had a winter sledding activity a couple years ago. And again, that's any fees that would be charged of kids to participate would go into this account and be paid, the cost would be paid out of this account.
So the single qualifier for the student activity is it's going to a student activity.
Right, right.
Each school does have a small gift account as well. The total balances should not get beyond 2,000. What comes in should just generally go out.
Right,
There might be some circumstances where either they've collected too much, or we got a break from a vendor, from the busing vendor, or from the
Whatever,
museum or
yeah.
something. The money just kind of came back and it's sitting there just as a balance. The high school, the high school is a little bit different just because they take in revenues
right,
from students, from the student activity fees,
right.
where the primary, elementary, and middle school, there's no revenues coming from students. So it's a different look managing these.
Sure.
So, and I think what we're trying to do is do a broad brush on all schools with this policy, knowing that there is kindergarten activities to student council activities up at the high school, and they're basically funded out of what the state deems as a student activity account.
Sure.
So, okay.
Chair, can I make a recommendation?
You sure can.
So I'm going to recommend we change the language to the superintendent must approve all student activity accounts. Student activity accounts will be established upon the recommendation of students or staff to the building principal, adding the words or staff.
I'll second that. Makes sense.
That makes sense. I mean, it doesn't change that the monies are spent completely on student activities and I mean, we can't use that money to buy a new globe for the classroom. It's got to be a student activity.
And it still goes back, it's, the next sentence even says it's going to go to the superintendent of schools as well after.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with that. That just clarifies it in my mind.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, especially for the lower schools. I didn't even think of that. Just thinking the
Yeah.
high school side of it.
Well, see, my primary, my primary experience clicks in and So,
So if you refresh your document, you should see that I've inserted that or staff in red.
there we go. Yeah, I think that works. That covers it. All right, so we then can continue to waive the first read, I think. I think we're all right on that. We've made that adjustment, and we can waive the first read and go on to a second read at the next meeting.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor in a second.
Oh, so, thank you very much, sir. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, for myself as well. Okay,
Excellent, thank you.
so that works. All right. Under old business, revised school committee organizational chart. So, I looked at this, and I think we'll just go through it. I wonder if no, that's not gonna work. Yeah, that probably looks better than it doesn't line up right on the iPad. I'm in all different lines there. So if we look at the 21-22 line, and we start at the beginning, I would be the chair, Brian the vice chair, Laura the secretary.
My name is just spelled wrong on that one.
Oh, my goodness.
That's all right.
All right, no, that's not all right. We'll fix it.
Yep.
We'll fix
And
that.
also at the top, I don't know how much, that was the elected position. I don't know if we're changing at the very top, it just says who was elected, but I don't know if that would have to change. I don't know if you do another column where they were appointed, by the, I don't know if that makes sense, appointed by the select board or not. Or you just leave it and that was elected
I thought,
going.
it was like that the committee elected me the chairperson and elected you.
No, I mean
the-
even higher at the very top before the yellow.
No, I mean there.
Oh,
See,
Yeah.
because this is here.
yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's what that means. So we just need to adjust the member and add Tony's name instead of Seamus's name, and adjust that there in that beginning part.
Okay.
And then jump down to the appointments to existing committees. Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
So I'm still the voting delegate, even though I haven't voted. And the legislative representative. I've done a little of that. And the spokesperson. I don't show up as the spokesperson on this. So I probably need to go there.
Yes.
And policy. So what did we want to do with the policy committee? It's listed as Mrs. Kelly and Mr. Kelly. So, Mr. Leighton, and you have been filling in on policy. Is that something you wish to continue to do, or do
I
you
would
wish
definitely
to
be
hand that
open
off?
to
I'll-
handing
I'll
it off.
jump
I think
into
that would be a great
whatever-
spot for Tony.
Yeah, I'll do
I
it.
think so, too. Okay. So we will add Tony to the policy committee.
Every Monday?
Thank you for jumping in.
It ends. How many more policies? are
We had
looking at?
meetings scheduled every Monday in December,
Yeah.
but we have to
Yeah.
select meetings for the upcoming, I think we had scheduled one for the 10th.
We do it for
Yeah.
the 10th, and then we can go from there. How many more policies are we looking at? I can't even, no.
So in my past experience, I feel like as a subcommittee often too, you decide when you want to meet too. So
Yeah.
if you get a new member,
Yeah.
And it
if a
doesn't
schedule doesn't work, you talk
Right.
it up and
Right.
figure out what schedules work.
Okay.
And also I think with policy, it just depends on what MASC recommends. They might throw out some new policies that they're trying to tweak, or something happens in the schools that we need to advise and change the policies, or policy wants to look at a policy like the busing and stuff like that. So I think it can be random, and the
Right.
superintendent might have recommendations too.
I mean, there are times when we're working on several policies, we're trying to move through revision of several policies for the year. And once we move through the ones that we've identified that we want to revise, we're essentially done for the
Okay,
year
got it.
unless something else comes to light that, either through MASC or some new issue that's come to light that we have to take another look at policy. Then we could reconvene at that point. But typically, we try to identify some things that we want to look at for the year. And then, once we've moved through those, we're done. And we don't have to meet every week. And we can make the schedule based on the members.
All right. I'm happy to fill in.
Great.
Thanks. I'm gonna update my calendar.
All righty. So after policy, the administrators are fine, we're not changing that.
We can delete Rebecca Hyde from
Oh,
the
yes,
from
we
the
can,
list.
yes.
And then update.
I guess we are changing that.
Yep, update John Londa as well.
Oh, you caught that one, yep.
And Steve Malandrinos?
Oh, yeah. Okay. The sick leave bank, Dr. Burnham and I did speak with Ms. Shapiro, and she's fine with staying on that. And we're not changing the superintendent or the executive board member to the Keystone Collaborative. I will still do the finance committee and the appointing committee for the finance committee. And you are well entrenched in the capital
I
planning
was
committee.
gonna say, we're almost done, yeah, so.
You might as well hang there. The Wellness Advisory Committee has Mr. Kelly.
Again, I'll just step into those things.
If you wish to do that, that would be great.
I know from past experience, I don't think they meet that often
They don't
either.
need
Three
meet
times a
very
year.
often.
Yeah, 3 times a year. There you
What does it do?
Can someone
Never been on the.
address
Yeah,
what
I
it
don't know.
does?
Sophie would be able to
Yeah.
probably,
Well,
that might be
so-
something we could ask Sophie too.
This committee typically in the past has been led by our nursing health coordinator.
Got it.
It is a committee that schools are required to have. The school physician is a member. There are students from the high school that are members. There are other staff members. And basically, they cover all sorts of aspects of student wellness. So pretty much anything that you can connect back to student wellness is something that can be discussed by this committee.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. The next one is the PTO liaison. That is something Sophie is having trouble covering. So if there is someone that would like to go to the PTO meetings and just report on what they are doing.
That's a bit hard for me because I already have policy and then,
I know,
Yeah, it's also a challenge for me because my wife likes to go to the PTO
Yeah.
and then I stay home with the
And
kids.
while
It was
she's
easy
there.
when it was on Zoom, but now that they're back live, we can't both attend.
What day is it on?
Mondays,
Oh, that'll be,
yeah.
Mondays at 7.
7, yeah, not every Monday.
I can try and cover them. Are there many people at these meetings?
No. In person, probably
they don't offer,
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
they don't offer the Zoom option at all.
No.
Okay.
There's no Zoom option at all. Okay, well, I'll go to the next one, we'll see. All right,
And if there's maybe Carol, you and I could switch off. If there's another month that you can't make, I can try and step in. It's just figuring out my problem with trying to figure out my kids. My husband plays soccer Monday nights.
yeah. Okay, all right, well, I'll take that, and we'll see how that goes. And the PAC-SAL, Laura, you fine with that? And the school council, the high school, Sophie said she was fine with that. And the middle school,
You ready on it?
yeah, I'm already.
Tony's already on it, so
yesterday.
that was an easy one there. And Turkey Hill,
Yep.
Laura, you're with that, and Brian, you're fine with the primary school?
Yes.
And Brian, the athletic advisory, that's
Yes.
fine. Sophie was fine with the lifelong learning. And then the building design committee.
Yeah, so I'm fine with this. Again, it's a little update. Literally got it today, but from the last select board meeting, they changed the name.
Oh, what are they calling it?
So now it is, sorry, I had it up. It is the Town of Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. I guess Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee.
Okay.
Which I'll be telling you more of tonight.
Yes, yes, when we get to that spot. All right. So are we set then? I think so.
So,
Do we have to vote that? I think we voted it the first time.
Yeah, I think we
So I
should.
think we need to vote that. So can I have a motion to approve the amendments as we discussed?
I'll make a motion to approve the Lunenburg School Committee organization chart amended as discussed tonight.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Well, we'll take care of that then. Now we have the transportation bid. Mr. Cassidy.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Cassidy, Business Manager. In front of you tonight is the school transportation bid for your approval to post and advertise. Hopefully, this is the second to last stop on this ride, so to speak. it's an anticipation that if we post this, it'll come back to the school committee, the first meeting in March. So the deadline is on February 17th. I want to highlight a couple of things. There's not a lot of changes since the last bid. It's, the length of the contract is a 3-year contract. We're not going to do the options. Non-service language. In the bid package on page 13, we added a section regarding payments. I can't find it. And part of it talks about the obligation of the town for prompt payments to the vendor, but it also addresses language for non-transportation days that will not be made up. And I'm not talking about a snow day that's made up in June. I'm talking about what we just experienced with the pandemic, canceling school days altogether, remote instruction, not using buses on those days. The language that we put in here is that the contractor will contact the town to seek compensation or a portion of the contractual value of those routes or those days, whatever they would be, that were not driven and were not ultimately rescheduled. That kind of addresses the snow days. And if such payment is also authorized by the legislation for that specific year. So it puts the emphasis on the vendor to follow those rules and approach the town to request money. So at that point, it becomes a point of bargaining with this vendor. And usually, if you recall the process that we went through before, it had to be approved by the local city council or board of selectmen. So that legislation will provide the framework of probably how the school departments what practice we would have to go through to get that payment. Now, if there's no legislation, it's basically saying that they're not entitled to that. So that's what we're proposing. This is this whole section L was a mishmash of various other bids that I found, current bids that are out there. I think it's important information that needs to be in the bid. But it's specifically number 6.
Yeah.
I don't think 3 years ago we thought this was going, could have happened. But I would see, I haven't spoken to the town manager about this, but I would imagine that most contracts, most bids that go out are going to have some reference to this type of language moving forward. And it may vary from bid to bid. So that's what's being proposed here tonight. There's
So-
another reference to the mandatory bid conference. There was no mandatory bid conference in the last IFB, which is the public bid. And there's a deadline to submit questions. But I think it's important, it's not a mandatory pre-bid opening with vendors for a bus contract. So I did speak to the town manager. I did present the invitation to the bid to the town manager. Her comments, she wanted to question the new section, and I said, yes, that's new. That's why it's kind of in red. And then she was just had a question around issuing addendums or addenda to bids, and was I leaving enough time for the district to respond, which was about 7 days. And ordinarily, when I bid these, as questions come in, I'm creating a document. So I'm not waiting for the last day to pull everything together. I'm creating a document, and I can release any questions to vendors, probably the next day. This isn't a very technical bid. It's not like a construction contract where we would have to get an architect out to do different measurements. This is a pretty standard contract. There may be some minor questions that they would have, and I'll respond to. If it doesn't seem like there's a lot of questions, I'll certainly get it out before, the deadline. So she was just questioning me, making sure that I had enough time to do that. And she just referenced making sure that the boilerplate contract is in the back, and it is in the back. So the bid that is posted in the folder for the school committee. There was a couple changes to it. So there was a reference to a 2-year option, which was removed. And I did find on the first page, it said January 2021.
Oh.
It changed that. And in the boilerplate contract, it referenced 2021 twice, and I changed that to 2022. So those were the changes in version 2. They were not major language changes.
Right.
Mr. Cassidy, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
What do you think the language means in the event of a non-school day that is not made up? Do you think that language places the onus on them to ask for payment, or the town to go to them?
The language is written that the contractor has to request and
Okay.
bargain with us
Okay,
to retrieve those funds.
okay. And is it standard in these kind of contracts to pay them for those kind of days?
Things have changed over the last 2 years.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, so there was, a big presentation to the Board of Selectmen with our current general ed transportation contractor and our special education transportation contractor seeking partial payment of 50% for the first year of the pandemic. And that was driven by the legislation. And they never gave a specific percentage to districts to pay their contractors. They left the bargaining between the vendors and the district.
Okay,
We ultimately settled at 50% for those 2 vendors. There were other districts that settled for much higher than that. I think we were closer to the lower end. There were from the districts. I'm trying to reach back on my memory bank, but I think there was a couple districts that was like 46%. I think was the lowest, and I think we bargained at 50%. So there was nothing like 25 or 23%.
okay.
So I think most districts and business managers and school committees wanted to keep our transportation companies in business for fear that they wouldn't be there in the fall. So
Any other questions for Mr. Cassidy? So that's where I'm stymied as well, though I think this is the best way to do it, because I know that the town wasn't happy that we paid anything to them, but to not pay them would have been difficult on their survival, so I think it was the way to go. And this is tied into the legislator. Maybe what might be a good thing to do the next time that I happen to have the ear of one of those legislators, just to say that they shouldn't leave the towns out there hanging, and they need to give them a figure,
Yeah.
you know, so that if they say 50% or 30% or 70% or whatever the law is, then rather than every man for yourself. So, I mean, that's where the difficulty comes in. So the difficulty actually is with the legislature to make sure that they define that number and not leave people in the position that we were left in,
Yeah.
which was difficult.
It's a good strategy, maybe even not less than percentage, you know,
Oh, yeah.
not less than 30%.
Yeah, that
And-
way
and
if
then
people
that's a-
wanted to pay more, they could,
Yeah.
but you would be okay with paying the bottom.
Yeah, so that way they're supporting local businesses, and it, there's a minimum that a district has to put up, so that's a good idea.
All right, if we get in that mess again, I will, or if I get somebody's ear. We'll see what we can do on that. Is there anything else on the,
Can I just ask one question about how this would work? And this is for Dr. Burnham. If there's a day that's canceled due to the staffing shortages because of COVID, would it count as one of these days?
No, we have to make them up in June.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I find it rare for this to ever
Yeah,
happen
this
again,
never
because
happens.
we're
Okay.
just gonna make up the days, and we're not gonna be shutting down for months on end, not making up the days.
let's hope.
So,
Yeah.
So, if there's no other questions for Mr. Cassidy, do I have a motion to approve the bus contract bid?
I'll make a motion to approve the general education transportation invitation to bid.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Once again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for putting that all together. So now we have public comments open to anything that falls under the school committee's authority. I am seeing none from the public. Is there any from the board? I have something that I just want to bring up so that if anybody who is listening might be interested, is just to remind people that the Parks Commission is having a hybrid meeting tomorrow evening at 6:30 with a public forum at 7 o'clock to talk about the redesign of Marshall Park. And this, of course, does affect the schools, as Marshall Park is where our high school baseball and softball teams do play. So anybody who might be interested can find that agenda and the Zoom information on the town calendar, but that meeting will be held in person at the town hall tomorrow evening at 6:30 with the public forum at 7. Okay, so now we have committee reports. The Athletic Advisory Committee,
We have not met.
okay. The Finance Committee is meeting next week. PTO, Sophie is not here. School councils, start with the primary.
We have not met, but we will be meeting on Valentine's Day.
Well, there you go. And
Turkey Hill is going to be meeting on January 20th.
And the middle school?
Met yesterday, and Mrs. Fletcher, the guidance counselor, had a presentation about the uptick in mental health needs and episodes, and it was staggering. I don't think the general public has any idea as to how bad it is. I asked her specifically, how many of these are like, where they've passed through filters before they get to you, and she said that number has skyrocketed. And then I asked her, what is the difference between pre-COVID and post-COVID? And she said, pre-COVID, she had seen 1 or 2 a year, and now a school year, and now she's seeing 1 or 2 a week. And I think that it's hard to Like, we're all, we're all adults, we have a different way of viewing the world, but for kids, I don't think that our society and even people in the town have come to grips with how bad it is for the kids. Like, that is a, 50-fold increase in the number of kids seeking mental health help. And for a lot of kids, the only place they get it is at school. And so, I was really taken aback. She also sent me a bunch of follow-up articles about the rates across the state, especially in Worcester County, and it's not just here. The rates are not, our rates are not high for the state. They're just high all over. But I don't, maybe everybody else do this because, you guys are teachers or you've been on the school committee before, but it was really shocking. Like, it's absolutely a dire situation. And the fact that they have the 3 guidance counselors in the middle school that they do, I think is the only reason why it hasn't gotten out of hand. It's just staggering. If you told me, like, I had 50 times more cases at my law firm, I think I would, drive off a bridge. So the fact that they're holding it together is really impressive. I also thought that Ms. Tusignant and Ms. Fletcher did a great job with the data. They're doing a lot of data tracking that I had not imagined that they would have the time to do, but they are doing data tracking on the kids, the needs that they have, and sort of which pipeline they're coming from to get to the guidance counselor office, including just like random drop-ins. So that was really impressive, and I think it's a commendation to how good they're doing, but it also tells me that, like, there is a real and critical need. And if our job on the school committee is to represent what's in the best interest of the kids, we need to be prepared to talk to town council, to the public, to everybody that will listen, that, like, this is a crisis and kids need some backup, and that's what we're supposed to do. So I was just stunned at the numbers and glad that they're there, because Ms. Tusignant has, I knew her through her son doing cross country with my son, and they're just great. And she was, she's out front every day when they walk in, so they know her. And Ms. Fletcher I'd never met, but she just did a fantastic job with the presentation. So it's kudos to them. But man, we've got to keep an eye on that. I can't imagine that not having ripple effects down the line.
There will be a full presentation for the school committee. I think we've started to plan for February.
And this will be all schools or just, okay.
Can I ask a question? Is it that bad everywhere? All the schools, like primary, Turkey Hill, high school?
Yeah, I think that my conversations with teachers, what they're seeing consistently, building to building, I guess the best way to frame it is maybe like their social development paused during the COVID year. And they socially, developmentally are not what you would see typically in each of the grades. It's almost like that social development is lagging by a year. So in other words, the 9th grade students aren't presenting like a typical 9th grade class. They are the word that I hear frequently is that they're very immature.
Oh, okay.
So they're kind of a little bit behind. Like I said, it's almost like somebody pushed a pause button and the kids socially did not develop as they typically would. So that's something that we're seeing consistently. But I will let our behavioral health coordinator, Jamie Millett, who's the social worker up at the high school, previously was the social worker for both the middle and the high school, so she would have the greatest context for our district and what we're seeing. She'll be the one that will come. I'm sure that the other members of the team will also accompany her. But she can give you, a fairly broad scope presentation on all facets of the behavioral health work that we're doing, including an update on the SEL Academy that we are in with the Department of Education.
Can I ask one follow-up question?
Sure.
Has the immaturity or the pause that you mentioned, has that borne out in an increase in crisis, like emotional crisis or behavior or discipline stuff? Or is it just that they're sort of extra chatty and immature?
I think that probably plays out differently in the different schools.
Okay,
How it's
okay.
manifest, because previously, how these social emotional challenges play out at the primary level
All right.
is very different than how they play out at a
Yeah.
high school level. But I can tell you that we should be able to give you some good perspective on what we're seeing as an uptick and what's consistent with past experience or new things that we hadn't seen previously. But we are collecting a lot of data. As you know, a data culture is part of the work that we're doing with the strategy. And we knew that these positions, these behavioral health positions, we could fund with the ESSER grant monies for a 3-year period. At the end of 3 years, we're going to have to make a decision as to the importance of these positions and whether or not we've got to keep them in the budget. And if we do, then what do we have to let go of in the budget? But all of that, for me, it needs to be supported by data. I need to be able to come before the community and explain why it's important for positions that we're including in the budget. So they know that they need to be tracking data for a variety of reasons, one of which is to track how well students are progressing with the supports that they're being given. But also, so that we know and we can make decisions when the grant money runs out about the positions that we need to keep.
I could not have asked for more data. I mean, like, since I was 7 years old, I looked at the back of baseball cards and loved statistics. And Mrs. Fletcher had all of it, all of the relevant stuff, and the stuff she presented to the advisory committee. And then every follow-up question, she had an answer with numbers. And then she sent me 5 articles to read for homework. And it was very, very informative. So they did a good job. I was absolutely floored at how bad it is.
Yeah, I would say that the behavioral health staff, including the new hires in guidance, we got lucky. But we got out in front and
That's good.
posted those positions early because we knew those types of staff would be in high demand.
Okay, thank you. The high school council, Sophie isn't here, and so we'll go on to capital planning.
So capital planning met the Tuesday before vacation, and then this Tuesday to finalize our priority ratings. So at the meeting Monday, we were able to finalize our ratings and pass that along to the town manager, who's going to present it to the select board. Some highlights that are related to school. So out of the total list, there was 31 needs that fit the criteria of capital planning. For the schools, there were 3 items. The 1-ton dump truck with plow came in at number 14 on priority list. The school mower came in at a priority 18. And the AC for classrooms at the primary school came in at 26. We don't know what the dollar amount is going to be on how many items are going to be able to be funded. We're going to have to wait to see what those numbers come out as and where out of those 31 we can actually fund.
Sounds good. Thank you for all your work on that committee. Wellness Advisory, we don't have that, report there. Paxel,
We're going to be meeting on the 13th of January.
you're getting there.
Yep.
And the, oh, I didn't write it down, I thought I did. The new committee, the Lunenburg Municipal Building
To
Committee.
change, yeah, Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. So literally got the email tonight about the meeting from last night that the select board has changed our charge. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'll read section 1, the general. So the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee, formerly the TC Passios Building Design Committee, will continue to work with any contracted architectural and engineering firms as they become available to review space needs for town offices, school uses, and community space at the building and/or land known as the TC Passios. Additionally, the committee will work to prioritize and/or rank the existing space usage requests and explore a variety of design permutations at different estimated budget tiers that would meet the needs of the town according to those priorities. The committee may analyze, discuss, and investigate other town-owned buildings and properties in their recommendations as they deem necessary to fulfill this charge. This committee will prepare viable, cost-effective solutions to the select board that conform to all the town's existing financial and fiscal policies and take into consideration all large-scale capital expenditures projected for the next 10 years. And then section 2 just talks about membership and meetings. And this charge was amended by the select board at their January 4th meeting and may be amended at future meetings. So we'll plan to be meeting in the next month or so, and I'll get back to you after we meet.
All right. Well, that's a switch.
Yeah, a lot more to it.
Yes, yes, a lot broader. Lifelong learning,
Has not met.
that's not met. Policy Subcommittee,
Yes, we did meet on December 20th, mostly focusing on the 3201, the student activity accounts,
okay,
which we saw tonight.
yes, thank you. And MASC workshop report,
I have no updates.
I signed up for the one on Friday on budget in this tumultuous time. I forget what they called it, but it was like, actually quite fitting for the discussion, because I'm sure it's going to be budgeting SEL support and support for mental health, and is going to be a big topic. So anyways, I
I feel
did
like
sign
that's-
up for that. We'll see what that,
I feel like they'll also talk about the ESSER funds, the grant
Oh,
funds,
yeah,
and
the grants
appropriately
and-
using those ESSER funds too, that we're not putting ourselves in trouble because those funds will go away. Want to make sure those are just temporary
How do we-
positions.
yes, yes. So, next time I will be able to tell you what that was about. So topics for future discussion. At our next meeting, are we heading towards budget?
Yes.
That's what I thought, okay. So that will be plenty of discussion. Anything else? So if there is nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
In a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.